Going on, guys? Today, welcome to the Black Financial Channel. That's theblackfinancialchannel.com. My name is Dr. Boyce Watkins, and today we're going to talk about a clip that I shared on Instagram that really got a lot of you talking. Where there is a woman who basically says that, look, if you're going to marry me, you're going to have to buy me a house. So get comfortable, buckle up your seatbelt. We're going to break it all down for you on the Black Financial Channel right now. Welcome to the Black Financial Channel. This is theblackfinancialchannel.com. My name is Dr. Boyce Watkins, and I'm going to have to step up for 1 second because I'm hearing somebody knocking at my door. Anyway, I'm right back. Sorry, guys. My wife was banging on my door right when we started the podcast, and she needs the key to the car, apparently. And so, I hope you guys are having a good day. Welcome. It's so good to see you. Let's see here. Who's in here? Let's see. I see Khalid Harleem, Appleton, from Appleton, Wisconsin. I see Brill. Let's see here. Original Man 24. Good to see you. Welcome on Instagram. My Instagram is The Real Boyce Watkins. And let's see. I see Max and Hisham, Allah, and Chuck Weeby, and G. Willis. And what y'all just saw was my wife banging at my door because I'm trying to figure out why she didn't just take the other car. We have 3 cars in the house. 3, actually 4, because grandma's here. 4 cars. And I'm like, why do you need my car when you have 4 cars total that you could take in this house? See, this is the type of stuff you work on when you get married. Like, marriage is like a whole management process. You're like managing a little business when you're married. And some of y'all, if you don't manage your family right, then that's gonna ruin your whole legacy. So put some thought into that. If you don't know what to do, just go take a class. They literally have classes out there on how to get married, how to stay married, and how to make the marriage work. So that's my 2 cents for anybody that wants to figure out how to do it the right way. Now, give me a yes or no if you saw a clip. There was a clip. I shared it on my Instagram. My Instagram is The Real Boyce Watkins. And there was a clip of a lady who basically was on this show with a guy, and the show was called Married at First Sight. And Married at First Sight is a show where people engage in the ridiculous act of getting married without having ever seen each other before. They literally get married. They don't know each other. They see each other for the first time on their wedding day. And so they literally are standing there, the bride's standing there, or the groom standing there waiting for the bride. The bride walks in, and he sees the bride for the first time, and he's about to marry this lady 2 or 3 minutes earlier. First off, I was going to say this. If you ever choose to go on a show like that, you're going to get what you ask for. I don't encourage making a massive investment like that without thinking it through. One of the rules of investing, as you guys know, my background's finance, is that you do your due diligence when you invest in something. And there's nothing that you'll ever invest that is more important than your life and your future. There's no financial investment you will ever make that is more important than your life, your future, your peace of mind, everything else. So give me a yes if you understand that going on this show is literally for people that are either crazy or desperate, or they just want to be on TV. I don't recommend doing anything like this. However, since the show goes on anyway, it does present these interesting scenarios. So there was a video, and I shared it on my Instagram. My Instagram is The Real Boyce Watkins. So feel free to follow me on The Real Boyce Watkins if you like intelligent conversations. That's what we try to stimulate in the Black community. I want more intelligence. I'm tired of the ignorance. I'm tired of all the spreading of toxic messages and harmful habits and bad choices and everything else, because that's ruining our community. It's ruining young people's lives, getting hooked on drugs, irresponsible sex, just bad financial decisions. And then you wonder why there's so much misery. Well, because they market misery to you. I don't want to market misery to you. I want to market intelligence to you. I want you to stop and think and be critical about the choices you make, because there's no reason why you should remain oppressed, especially if we're choosing to oppress ourselves. All right. So on this platform, on The Real Boyce Watkins, I shared this clip, and I wanted to get your thoughts. Now, I know my wife has thoughts too. She's a relationship therapist. And this clip, this woman basically says to the guy, she says, I guess they'd already gotten married on this show. And she says, I want to tell my friends my husband bought me a house. And he's like, what? And she says, I want to tell my friends my husband bought me a house. And he says, wait, so you mean buy a house without your participation? And she says, well, my name will be on the deed. And then the music stops. Like you hear the needle rip off the off the record, right? And he's like, that's it. You're just going to be on the deed. You're not actually going to contribute to paying for the house, saving for the house, none of this stuff. And she says, no, she says, I'm gonna be pushing out babies. I'll be pushing out your babies, and that's a heck of a lot of pushing. And she pretty much just says, yeah, you're gonna buy me a house. And he says, well, where are you getting this from? And she says, well, I'm getting this from people's marriages. This is the way marriage is supposed to go. And he says, have you been married before? And she says, no, but this is the way my friends' marriages go. Now I want to ask y'all a question. Let's do crazy smart. Let's do a crazy smart test. I want you to type one word in the chat. Is she crazy for asking for this, or is she smart for asking for this, for being honest? And then she goes on and says, "This is who I am. This is who I am." Now, is that crazy or smart? What do y'all think? Do y'all think it's crazy or smart? Do y'all look at that and say, what's wrong with you? You're out of your mind, or do you say, oh, that's smart, that's good, you're being honest and upfront? You're making a plan for the future. You're locking yourself in with financial security. Okay, I see crazy. Okay, so crazy's winning 3-0, 4-0. I see another. Okay, Justin says I can't say it's crazy. Cannot. Okay, crazy. Okay, I see a crazy AF. That's like a double crazy. I see smart though. Pilar says smart. I see crazy. Myron says very stupid. Brill says crazy. My name is Corey says it depends. Claudia says smart. Linda smart. Chrissy smart. Okay, so the smarts are catching up with the crazies. Another Thelma smart. Soul Choice smart. Okay, Miss Magic says insane. See, you got to follow the rules. That was not one of the options, but crazy is kind of like insane, right? So it works. All right. Anyway, okay, so this is interesting. This is interesting because I'm going to tell you that I'm going to break this down. I'm going to kind of give you a way to process this. I'm not going to tell you what the right answer is, because first off, I'm going to tell you there is no right answer. Years ago, in about 2004, 2005, when I was on the faculty at Syracuse University, I wrote a book called Financial Lovemaking. It's actually on Amazon if you want to go pick up a copy. And when I was writing this book, Financial Lovemaking, I did a lot of research on relationships and money, and how couples sort of look at that, how the two connect. Because I was always fascinated with the way money changes relationships. I didn't understand how, when I was 29 and I was struggling and I was broke and I was barely paying the rent and I was just the nerdy guy in the library. My stock as a potential mate was about here. But then when I was 31 and I'm making $115,000 a year as a faculty member at Syracuse University, because I finished my PhD, suddenly my stock is way up here. Suddenly I noticed just a difference in terms of the way women would treat me, right? It was almost like a male version of getting a BBL. You get a BBL, you get some enhancements. I got some enhancements on my bank account. My bank account got a BBL. And basically I started getting all this attention that really kind of made me curious. Like, wow, like I'm still the same guy. I haven't changed. I'm still who I am, who I was before, but now I have a little bit more ability to provide financial security. And there was just a difference in the reaction. So rather than just sort of judging it, I studied it and I researched that basically there's just literally like 100,000 years of evolution that says that security is very important. It tends to be very important for women. And also the ability to provide financial security is a confidence booster for men. So men that have, when their bank accounts are right and their money's right, they feel a little more confident. They feel a little stronger. Their testosterone rises. And when the money's kind of not right, then that's when men start to feel a little bit weaker and a little more, they even have sexual problems. They become less capable, when it comes to performing, and even their women can become less attracted to them. If you have a man that was doing really well financially, and then suddenly he's like broken in a lot of different ways, it can affect a lot of things, right? So long story short, this is really interesting stuff. And I think it's important to understand this, because what I see people kind of having interesting expectations about what somebody else is supposed to expect out of them and what they're supposed to expect from other people. There's always this long conversation about what's realistic and what's not. She's only, she's a mother with 2 kids, and why was she expected to date a man that makes a certain amount of money, over $100,000 a year? Or why would this man who works at UPS expect to date the prettiest girl on the block when she's got so many other options, right? Everyone sort of judges each other's expectations. And I'm going to tell you that I don't think that's the right approach, because as an economist, I can tell you everything kind of operates in markets. What's realistic for one person is unrealistic for another. Like, for example, if me and LeBron James were sitting in class together in the 5th grade, and the teacher says, well, what do you want to be when you grow up? And me and LeBron raise our hands and both say, we want to be NBA basketball players. Well, For me, that's an unrealistic statement. That would be unrealistic for me to say, I expect to be in the NBA and I expect to make $1 billion playing basketball. That would be unrealistic, right? But for him, it's not unrealistic. So if someone just says, oh, well, that's unrealistic, look at the statistics. Look at how many black boys never make it to the NBA. That's crazy. That's both of you are out of your minds. No, then that would actually be an incorrect assessment, because what's realistic for one person is unrealistic for another. What a gorgeous woman can get from the dating market is different from what a mediocre woman can get from in the dating market. However you define mediocre, right? It's all in the eye of the beholder, right? What a rich man expects in the dating market is very different from what a broke man might expect from a smart man versus a dumb man, a funny man versus a dry man, right? An interesting guy versus a boring guy, right? All these things play a part in how the market treats you, like a job market. If we're all looking for a job, and I say I expect to make $500,000 a year and I want to work 5 hours a week, that might be unrealistic for me, but it could be realistic for Will Smith. Do you understand what I'm saying? Do you get what I'm saying? And I want to kind of get you to kind of process this in a different way so that you'll move away from these simple-minded internet conversations with these internet therapists who many of whom have terrible relationships, by the way, many of whom have horrible personal lives, who will sit here and tell you, well, that ain't realistic, or these men this and that, those women that, right? That's just not how it all works. So I'm going to tell you this. Look, first thing I'll say is, when you're talking about what this woman says, when you say she's crazy, that means you're saying that's crazy for you, right? Like, I wouldn't want a woman like that, and that's perfectly fine. And if you say she's smart, then you're saying, yeah, that's kind of what I would do too, and that's okay too. It's okay to say that she's smart, because maybe your interest is in financial security. Financial security is very important. So anyway, as I move forward, I'm gonna break some of this down for you. I have some notes actually. Do me a favor, hit the thumbs up button. Please hit the thumbs up, share, subscribe. Also, I want to remind you, I'll be in Houston on the 21st and 22nd. I'll do a 2-day Black Wealth Boot Camp. I'm only going to be in Houston for 2 days, and I probably won't come back for years because I'm not going to travel as much. But if you'd like to join us in Houston, feel free to go to boycewatkins.com. Also, the stock options masterclass starts tonight. We're going to go 4 weeks trading on stock options. I wrote about it in my dissertation. I know all about stock options. I'd love to teach you. So if you'd like to be a part of the class and learn how stock options work, feel free to go to boycewatkins.com. The link is on my website. All right. So the other piece here. All right. So here's what I thought about this comment. Now, my friend who I respect so much, brother Ben X, he flat out just said, if she's taking care of your babies, then I don't see no problem with it. And that was one perspective, right? And I like Ben. I respect him a lot, and he's a good guy. And I'm gonna tell you also, I bet you Ben is not a broke man, right? And remember, Ben is also a member of the Nation of Islam, which means he has a certain set of values that he was raised on, and in a way he kind of operates in the world, right? So in Ben's world, it's like, yes, I can be the breadwinner. You take care of my kids. That works out just fine, right? And I think that that's a legitimate perspective. And I'm going to tell you, there are a lot of people who think that way. I can just tell you this. Again, I can just speak a little bit. I can speak on behalf of men who are not broke, right? Where I for a long time I've made 6 figures since I was 30. Then I made 7 figures since I was 40. So I know what it means to make money, right? I know what it means to have money. I've been an investor my whole life. And let me just tell you this: when you get to the point where you have enough money as a man, money is not a big deal like it used to be when you were young. It's kind of one of those things where you start to think about other things that money cannot buy. Like, for example, peace of mind. Peace of mind is really important, especially if you're talking about a man who's out here busting his ass, conquering the world, trying to make millions of dollars or whatever. He needs peace. He needs space. He's always fighting for something. He's always battling something, right? So that sort of support can be something where he's like, yeah, if I got to pay you a few $1,000s a month to make my life better, I'm good with that, right? And then you have men that maybe are in a different space. Either they're still building, or money is a little bit tighter, which is the majority of men, right? Who might say, you know what, I can't afford to have another dependent. I'm not interested in having somebody where I am their primary benefactor, where I'm paying all the bills and going through all this stress. I don't want a traditional relationship. I kind of want a partner. I want someone that's a little more modern in that way. And what's interesting is that it seems like there's like this battle online about sort of the benefits, the pros and the cons of a modern woman, right? So-called modern woman is a woman that might help you pay half of all the bills, might even pay more than half, but she's also going to change the dynamics of the relationship in certain ways. There's certain amounts of control that you might have had in the 1940s that you're not going to have today, because she's going to say, hey, you know what? I'm an equal partner in this relationship, and I'm a partner in this firm. I'm not an employee. And that can work for some people. So what I would say generally, definitely, is communication really matters, because remember, marriage really is a business contract. It's more business than it is love. Dating and relationships are about love. Marriage is business. You signing a legal contract in a marriage. You sitting down with a piece of paper in front of the state of Missouri or wherever you live, and you're signing a contract. So in this contract, there is something in finance that we call optimal contracting. There's a whole body of research about optimal contracting, where you need to state the terms of the deal before you make the deal. You got to make a good deal in order for you not to get screwed. And many of you have seen relationships and marriages where people walked away saying, damn, I got screwed, right? What's an example? Well, I knew a friend who had a girlfriend that he loved very, very much, and but they never signed the paper because he's like, baby, it's all about the love. The love is what all that matters. Marriage ain't nothing but a piece of paper. I love you, girl. I love you, girl. Well, guess what? He went down with a serious medical condition where he was in the hospital and incapacitated, and she had no rights at all. No rights. This woman that loved him, that stood by him, was with him for years, had zero rights, could not go, went to the hospital, and she was persona non grata. It's like, no, you don't matter. The maybe his real wife matters. His ex-wife matters more than you. His daughter, his son, they matter. His mama matters. You don't exist. And that sucks, right? Because your love was very real, but the lack of acknowledgement also is very extra real, right? So ultimately, optimal contracting is where you kind of think about this before you sign, before you agree to anything. You got to think about all the different possible outcomes and how that's going to work out for you. Or you'll end up like Megan the Stallion, who signed a contract with her record label and then years later is complaining that her record label screwed her. Well, did you read the contract? Did you know what you were signing up for? Did you think about things, or did you just think maybe they can make me famous? Again, it's all, it's a personal choice, but this is reality, right? So ultimately, what I like about her statement when she said this is she basically just kind of, it almost came off like an ultimatum. It came off as her. She literally says at the end, she says, "This is who I am. This is who I am." And you, I think you have to give some credit for the fact that she was being honest. So when she says, "I expect my husband to buy me a house," and he's like, "What? What? What are you talking about, girl? That's crazy." Da, da, da. Right? She's like, "This is who I am. I'm pushing out your babies. This is who I am." And what more can you ask for from a person than for them to be honest? Right? She wasn't hiding it. She was making it 100% clear. Um, and so you might say, well, that's crazy. I'm not doing that, right? But you know what it makes me think about? Again, let's go back to markets. How many of you, give me a yes or no, how many of you have ever shopped at a luxury store and bought something? How many of you have ever gone to the Coach store, the Louis Vuitton store, the Gucci store? Maybe you bought a Tumi bag. My wife bought me a Tumi bag. I have it. It's actually it's over there. It's really good. These Tumi bags are really good. They last forever. They have a lifetime warranty, but they would like probably survive a nuclear blast, but they will cost you, like you'll be paying out the butt for a Tumi bag. But she got me one, right? How many of you? Okay, all right. So some of you have shopped in luxury stores, and here's the thing: if you walk into a Gucci store, Louis store, Tumi store, they're gonna be like, "Look, this is the price. Take it or leave it. It's okay if you don't. It's okay if you can't afford it. It's okay if you're not interested. We get it. We get it. But don't tell us we're crazy for selling luxury items because the owner of Louis Vuitton, Bernard Arnault, is the richest man on the entire planet. Bernard Arnault right now is worth over $200 billion. So don't tell us we're crazy for asking you to pay $1,000, $2,000 for a bag. Just walk out the store. Just go. It's okay. We don't really want to work with you anyway. We're telling you up front what it is, so you can make a decision as to whether or not you're in the right store. Because Walmart is right down the street. Walmart's right down the street. And so what she's kind of saying is, you're in the Gucci store, you're in the Coach store. Everything in here, everything I have is there's a certain expectation that comes with that. Some would say a price, but I don't want to cheapen it. But she's saying, this is what we expect in this store. If that doesn't work for you, this is who I am. If that does not work for you, don't get mad. Don't cuss me out. Don't call me the B word. Walmart's down the street because the internet's giving vaginas away for free. They dropping like the price of gas, right? Seriously, I mean, really, like so they flood. They got people out here flooding the market with pretty girls who will pay half the bills, never expect you to make any sort of commitment, and will also do whatever you say and expect nothing from you, right? And so I think that this what I saw here in this conversation was her being really honest about what she expected and who she was. And what I also wondered is the difference in expectations of what they think a marriage is going to be. People don't talk about that. I think really understanding a person's experience, like what have you seen when it comes to marriage? So my wife actually told me, and I'm gonna bring my wife in. We're gonna talk about this again because I want to hear her perspective on this. She watches the show all the time, and she said that the woman actually explained part of the reason that she needed financial security. Tell me if you can relate to this. She said, my father took care of my mother to a point, and then they got a divorce. And when they got a divorce, my mother had nothing. My mother was broke. If I'm not mistaken, I got to go watch the entire story. But she basically saw a financial trauma roll out right in front of her eyes. How many of you have ever seen something like this happen? How many of you have ever gone through that? And I can tell you, financial trauma is very, very real. That's one of the reasons why in the Black Business School, we created the first ever Black financial therapy department, because a lot of y'all need therapy. You just may not know it. You just kind of operate and think that everything's normal when some things are just not normal. So that financial trauma, witnessing something like that, witnessing your mother suddenly go to having to beg for money or having no options or crying on the floor because she can't pay the rent this month or moving from a nice house to the projects or something like that. Like there are kids go through that and it stays with them for life. Even Kanye West talked about that. He talked about when him and his mother left Atlanta and they moved to Chicago. And he said, I'm mad at my mother a little bit because we moved to this really bad neighborhood where I was suddenly, my life was in danger. Right? And so ultimately these traumas stay with you. They're very, very real. And so what she's kind of reacting to is her trauma. Right. And I think that what he's saying, it makes perfect sense too. He's basically saying, what are you talking about? I don't want to do that. I'm not going to go buy you a house. Now, remember, he's a doctoral student. And when I was a doctoral student, I didn't have any money myself. I was broke. So if a woman had come up and said, I expect you to buy me a house, I would have said, I expect you to leave my house immediately. I expect you to get out because I can't do that. I can't buy you a house. That's too much pressure. I don't have that kind of money. I got to go somewhere else. So remember, but it's all about markets. That doesn't mean one person's wrong. It just means that you're going to have to find different people. Okay. So anyway, do me a favor, hit the thumbs up button, thumbs up, share, subscribe. By the way, I do have a new book called The 10 Commandments of Black Economic Power. It is an Amazon bestseller. If you go to Amazon and check it out, feel free to go take a look. It's called The 10 Commandments of Black Economic Power. I think you guys are going to like it. The reviews are very, very good. And so here's what another question I would ask you, I think, when you're talking about this, right? Remember, she made the argument that says that you should take care of the finances because I'm going to take care of your kids. And again, this is all about, sort of a personal choice. I'd like to ask you this question. What's it worth for somebody to take care of your kids and raise your babies? What's that worth to you? Is it worth like $500 a year, $1,000 a year? Like what is, what's the financial value of being a homemaker? What do you think? What is the financial value of that? I'm Googling it right now because I think that they actually put a monetary value on it. And they said that the editors at a financial services website, mint.com, recently released a breakdown of the duties of a homemaker and costs associated to show the outstanding financial value of a stay-at-home parent. The site revealed a 12-month general services provider of a home should make about $96,261 a year. So it's almost $100,000 a year. That's their claim. Again, there could be an agenda or something, right? Because we kind of live in this world where, you've got the feminist agenda and all this other stuff, right? But so you can take that number with a grain of salt, but there is an economic value that does come with somebody taking care of your kids. And I can tell you this too. This is for all the wealth builders in the building. How many of you are wealth builders? How many of you are plan to be rich one day? How many of you are investing right now? How many of you have a little bit of money right now? Give me a yes in the chat. All my wealth builders, give me a yes. That's what this platform is for people that want to build wealth and want to be smart. We don't mess with the ignorance. The thing about being a wealth builder is that at some point, legacy will start to matter. And if you watch a show like Succession, you'll see where legacy is an important part. The whole show is all about legacy. It's called Succession, right? So legacy matters, which means that if you're a person that's building wealth and building this empire, then that co-parent that you choose to raise your children is a really important part of preserving your legacy. They're a really important part of putting the right value systems inside the minds of your kids. You don't want to be a billionaire who has their kids being raised by a stripper or whatever, right? Again, no disrespect to strippers, but I wouldn't want that. I wouldn't want my children to be taught by somebody who isn't going to respect me as their father, right? So ultimately, I would say that that's something worth thinking about too. And I would say also too that that with all of us, because we have this confused society where no one really understands gender roles anymore. And maybe it was clearer 50 years ago, but now it's kind of confusing. Men don't know what to do. Women don't know what to do exactly. And there's all this conversation happening. That's where I think communication comes into play. And in fact, actually, one of the things I'll go ahead and just quickly give a little plug on my wife. Her website's coachingwithdralicia.com. She's all about relationship communication. And one of the reasons communication matters is because you have to constantly communicate to understand who's doing what, how's this going to work, what are the plans, and then you have to do all this before you start going deep with somebody, right? Before you even sleep with them, I think you should talk a lot extensively to kind of see what you're signing up for, so you don't get surprised. It's like when I'm getting my pilot's license now, and when I'm landing the airplane, I gotta constantly communicate and with my position. I gotta communicate with my instruments. I gotta make sure my altitude's a certain level and my airspeed's a certain level. I gotta make sure my angle's a certain level. I'm banking properly, right? You gotta constantly calibrate to make sure that you're not going to crash on the runway, right? So the same thing is true with a relationship. If you're not constantly communicating and constantly calibrating to say, okay, so how's this going to go? What are your thoughts on this? How should we approach this? How were you raised on this? What do you think, right? If you don't understand these things, you will be consistently confused. You'll be pissed off. You'll be running around mad, and you'll be bitter like a bunch of the people on the internet that get on the internet and talk crazy about women all day long or talk crazy about men all day long. I can tell you that, like, there's one lady that has a whole platform where all she does is talk about how much she hates men. Well, a lot of it started with her dad. Her dad was just a terrible, terrible person. So that translates into undiagnosed projection of her anger toward her father onto all black men, right? So get do the healing, do the work, get your little therapist so you can figure out how to work through the crap that you went through, and then also communicate to make sure that whoever you invest in is going to be the right person to invest in. And I would also say that for women, so I'd say for women that are looking for the rich guys and all this other stuff. And I can tell you, as a so-called rich guy, I've seen it. I can see it from a mile away. Most guys that have money, I think, are pretty good at spotting overly materialistic gold digger types, and who expect something for nothing. And also, I would say that in general, I think understanding the person that you're trying to connect to in terms of how to make their life better is really, really an important part of that process. It's really interesting to me when you do see women that expect a man to pay for all the bills, but they're giving nothing in return except maybe looking good and giving some sex. I can just tell you that grown ass men don't think that way. Once a man gets beyond the little boy stage, I'd say 40 and beyond, I don't think that all that stuff, like all them little tricks you do in the bedroom, cartwheels and everything else, he done seen all that. He's had all that offered to him. So the question is, can you get next to his heart by offering him something that the cheap women cannot afford? Right? Seriously. I mean, can you do something that an Instagram model can't do? Right. And I can just tell you that's really important. I think things like that peace of mind and that support, emotional support and all that is really important. But also, I think that for women, I think that a lot of black women, unfortunately, many of the mistakes I've made, I'm not criticizing at all, but I'll say that I think getting that paperwork is important. You might think that marriage, I don't think anybody should let anybody tell you that marriage is just a piece of paper. If it is just a piece of paper, it's an important piece of paper, because when you get to that stage where stuff starts getting real, where you have health issues pop up, and stuff is going on in terms of property. You want to have rights. Everybody wants rights. Colin Kaepernick, all he would talk about is, I know my rights. I know my rights. You got to have rights. And if you don't have something legally written down somewhere that protects your rights, then you don't exist pretty much. That whole relationship, let me just tell you that I interviewed a lady, I kid you not, I interviewed a lady who said that she was the longtime girlfriend of Martin Luther King Jr. This lady was 90 something years old. And at 90 something years old, she was still pissed off that after all those years she put into this man, that they acted like she never existed. They only talk about Coretta. Think about it. So imagine you're 90 something years old. That means she's been pissed off a good 50, 60 years. She's been mad for 60 years because the man she loved, nobody recognized her. She couldn't come to the funeral. They told her. She told me, I think she said Harry Belafonte or somebody. I'm not mistaken. Let me just say that I can't quite remember. But I could have sworn she mentioned Harry Belafonte's name, but maybe I'm wrong. But she said literally they told her, do not come to the funeral. When he was being hauled away in the ambulance, she loved her man. She wanted to climb in the ambulance with him. They said, you cannot get in this ambulance, ma'am. And all through the years, ain't none of y'all ever heard her name in the history books. All y'all know about Coretta, but nobody knows about this poor lady in Kentucky who died 60, 70 years later, pissed off that nobody ever recognizes her as Martin Luther King's true love, in her view, in her world, in her mind. Right. No disrespect to Coretta, but this was a real interview that I had. It kind of freaked me out. So I would encourage you to consider just what your rights are. Imagine if he goes down with a stroke and he can't talk. Imagine if he's dead tomorrow. What happens if he dies? Can you get in the bank account? Can you still pay the bills? What's going to happen to you financially? Do you own anything? Do you have any other options and outlets? That's really important for women to think about. And I would also say for men, I think kind of deciding like what you want is, I think, really important too. I would say that for men, I think that making that decision, like, okay, do I want a partner who's going to help me make money and help me succeed in certain levels? There's certain benefits to that, absolutely, positively, and there's a lot of great women that can do that with you. Or am I at a point where I don't need a partner? I just want somebody where I'll pay the bills as long as you make my life easy when I'm not out making the money, right? So if you're a guy that makes a ton of money, I don't know if you necessarily need another breadwinner in the house. Maybe you're at a point where you're thinking, you know what, I just need somebody to make sure that everything's good when I come home, that my kids are taken care of, that the house is clean, whatever, right? And I think all that's okay. I think it's completely within your rights to expect whatever you want. And I would just be clear about what you want and then find out if she's able to provide that. And again, communication really becomes important. And then also when you're shopping for a partner, I think you got to decide, am I going to shop in the Coach store? Am I going to Walmart? Right? I think that's really, because they're going to have different prices. And so what this lady says is, she says, look, this is the Coach store. This is Gucci. This is Louis. If you want access to all of this, you're going to have to buy me a house. You're going to have to provide a certain lifestyle. If you can't afford to shop in the store, that's okay, because you can go to Target or Walmart. It's right down the street, right? But then if you go down to Target or Walmart and you shop, then you're going to get a certain reduction in the quality of what you might receive, right? So you might go down and you might go to Walmart and shop for a partner and say, gosh, look at this. I got a nice girlfriend for $19.95. But then you might run into some challenges if you're trying to truly level up your life, in the sense that maybe she does not have what is necessary to help you really get to where you want to get to, right? Maybe you're dealing with some ghetto crazy stuff or whatever, right? So ultimately, I think vetting people is really important before you let them into your life. It's just like investing. It's no different from investing. The only difference between marriage and investing is that marriage is a bigger investment than anything you'll ever do when it comes to stocks. I can tell you all day about investing in stocks and diversification and risk management and all that. But let me just tell you, no bigger investment you'll ever make in your life than who you marry to. And I think it's important to calibrate that. Another piece is even income level. Do I want to marry somebody who has no income? Which means at that point I become their only source of income, which means that if I decide to walk away, it's going to be harder for me to walk away, because it's like taking somebody's job, right? They're going to hold on to you. Or do I want somebody that already has plenty of money, where if I walk away, she's not going to care because she's already got plenty of her own resources, plenty of her own assets. And actually there was a study that just said that women, I think for the first time ever, half of all women make more than their men, or at least as much as their men. So we live in a different world with different expectations and different realities. And I can tell you this too. One thing that's interesting that I've noticed also, even in the dating market, is that when women are financially secure, there are maybe some challenges that men might see, but there's some benefits too, in the sense that maybe she doesn't need you to commit. Maybe she's not going to ask you to marry her because she's like, I'm good. I'm taken care of. Right. So it all kind of depends on what you're looking for, and you got to know where you're shopping. That's my 2 cents. That's Uncle Boyce talking. I hope it's okay if I share this advice. And if I said something that you don't agree with, that is totally fine. That's totally fine. All right, guys, I got to get out of here. My daughter has a dance recital today, so I got to get on. I got to go on and check that out. And do me a favor, hit the thumbs up button, thumbs up, share, subscribe. My new book is called The 10 Commandments of Black Economic Power. It is on Amazon right now. It's a bestseller, so thank you all for supporting the book. Also, I'll be in Houston on the 21st of April, so feel free to go to boycewatkins.com if you'd like to learn more about Houston. And my wife's website, by the way, is coachingwithdralicia.com. It's right there on the screen, so feel free to go to coachingwithdralicia.com if you want to see what she does. All right, and she did that whole Cardi B assessment this week about fetal alcohol syndrome. I don't know if Cardi was too happy about that. So I think she's gonna shift that conversation a little bit. But anyway, guys, have a good day. God bless you, and I will see you soon. Take care now. Peace.